The large meeting room was filled with beings from across the galaxy. Some looked like giant insects with shiny green shells. Others had fur and long tails that moved as they talked. A few looked almost like humans, but with purple skin and extra arms. All of them sat in special chairs made for their different body types. Ambassador Elena Vasquez sat quietly in the human section. She wore a simple blue uniform with the Earth symbol on her shoulder. Her black hair was pulled back in a neat style. She looked calm and peaceful, just like humans always did at these meetings. For 3 years now, humans had been part of the Galactic Council. At first, the other species had watched them carefully. Humans came from what everyone called a death world, a planet so dangerous that most species would die there in days. But humans seemed different from what anyone expected from a death world species. They were kind. They helped solve problems between other species. When the Zephyrians and the Mantids had fought over mining rights last year, it was the humans who found a way for both sides to be happy. When the Crystalline Collective couldn't understand why the furry Altarians were upset about noise pollution, humans explained it in a way that made sense to everyone. The other council members had started to relax around humans. They forgot about the death world thing. Humans brought cookies to meetings. They remembered everyone's names and asked about their families. They were the nicest species in the galaxy. Elena looked around the room as the meeting started. The Zenthari ambassador was complaining about trade routes again. His bug-like mandibles clicked as he spoke. The Krillian war chief was arguing back, his thick armor making scraping sounds when he moved. The tiny Pixari delegate had to use a voice amplifier just to be heard. This was normal. Every meeting had the same arguments about the same problems. Humans usually helped find solutions that worked for everyone. Elena had already prepared 3 different compromise proposals for today's topics. The main speaker today was Chancellor Vorth from the Altarian Federation. His purple feathers were all fluffed up because he was excited. He was talking about a new peace treaty between his people and the metal-skinned mechanoids. This treaty will bring lasting peace to the Outer Rim, Chancellor Vorth said. His voice sounded like birds singing. Thanks to human mediation, we have found common ground with our mechanical neighbors. Elena smiled. It had taken 6 months of careful talks, but they had worked it out. The mechanoids needed rare metals, and the Altarians had plenty. The Altarians needed help with their computers, and the mechanoids were experts, simple trades that helped everyone. The meeting continued with boring talk about shipping lanes and tax rates. Elena took notes and thought about lunch. The station's cafeteria had added a new salad that she wanted to try. Then the emergency alarm went off. The sound was harsh and loud. Red lights flashed all around the room. Every species had their own way of showing fear. The insect-like beings clicked rapidly. The furry one's ears went flat. The Crystalline Collective's representative turned from clear to dark gray. Elena felt her heart speed up, but she kept her face calm. Emergency alarms could mean anything from a technical problem to a real crisis. A communication screen appeared in the center of the room. Static filled the air before a human voice came through, shaky and scared. This is New Geneva Colony calling for immediate help. Unknown ships have entered our system. They're not responding to our calls. We have 2.3 million people here. We can't evacuate everyone in time. They're not listening to us. They're just... Oh God, they're firing on the outer stations. We need help now. Anyone who can hear this, please. The message cut off into static. The room went silent. Elena felt something cold move through her chest. New Geneva was one of humanity's first colonies outside Earth's solar system. It was a beautiful world with blue oceans and green forests. Families had been living there for 20 years. There were schools and parks and museums. There were children there. Elena noticed that her hands were completely still. That was strange. Usually when she was worried, her hands moved around a lot. But now they were perfectly still on the table in front of her. Chancellor Vorth spoke first. This is terrible news. We must follow proper procedures. File a formal complaint with the Security Committee. Send a peacekeeping force within 72 standard hours. The Zenthari ambassador agreed. Tragic, but these things happen in the frontier systems. Pirates grow bold when they think no one is watching. Elena stood up slowly. Every movement felt very clear and precise. She could hear her heartbeat, but it was steady and calm. Too calm. Excuse me, she said. Her voice sounded different to her own ears. Quieter, colder. Did you say 72 hours? Yes, Chancellor Vorth said. Standard Council protocol for frontier incidents. Elena nodded once. She pressed a button on her communication device. Admiral Chen, this is Ambassador Vasquez. Authorization code Alpha 77 Hunter. We have a code black situation. The other ambassadors looked confused. They had never heard of Admiral Chen. They thought humans only had small defense ships. A hologram appeared next to Elena. A woman in a black military uniform looked out at the council. Her gray hair was cut short, and her eyes were the color of winter ice. Admiral Sarah Chen, Earth Defense Command, the woman said. I have the updated situation, Ambassador. It's worse than we thought. Elena felt something change inside her chest. Something that had been sleeping for 3 years was waking up. How much worse? Elena asked. 17 colonies have gone dark in the last hour. This isn't pirates. The attack pattern matches historical data from the archives. We're looking at devourers, several council members gasped. The devourers were extinct. They had to be extinct. They were monsters from the old stories, creatures that ate entire worlds. Elena nodded again. Still very calm, still very still. Admiral Chen, how long until your ships reach New Geneva? 6 hours for the advance fleet. 12 hours for the main force. Approved. Begin Hunter Protocol immediately. The Admiral's image disappeared. Elena turned back to the council. Every eye in the room was staring at her. Ambassador Vasquez, the Zenthari delegate said slowly, what is Hunter Protocol? Elena looked at him for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was still quiet, but something in it made several of the smaller species step backward. It means, Elena said, that humanity just remembered what we really are. She sat back down and folded her hands on the table. They were perfectly steady. And for the first time in 3 years, she continued, looking around the room at all the shocked faces. We're going to show you. The emergency lights kept flashing red, but somehow, Elena thought, they looked more like hunting signals now. In the silence that followed, no one noticed that Elena's smile had changed. It was still polite, still diplomatic, but it was also the smile of something that had just caught a scent. The council chamber stayed silent for exactly 47 seconds after Elena's words. She counted them. During those 47 seconds, her communication device buzzed quietly 17 times. Each buzz meant another human colony had stopped sending signals. Elena read each report as it came in. Her face stayed calm, but something behind her eyes grew colder with every message. Ambassador Vasquez, Chancellor Vorth said carefully, perhaps you could explain what you mean by showing us what humanity really is? Elena looked up from her device. Of course, Chancellor. It's quite simple. For 3 years we've been playing nice. We've been the helpful neighbors. We've been what you needed us to be. She stood up again. This time when she moved, every being in the room felt it. There was something different about how she held herself. But you need to understand something about humans. We come from a world where everything wants to kill everything else. The plants are poisonous. The weather can freeze you or burn you. The animals have teeth and claws and venom. Admiral Chen's hologram appeared again without being called. This time she wasn't alone. Behind her stood rows of humans in black uniforms. They all had the same cold, focused look in their eyes. Updated report, Admiral Chen said. 23 colonies now dark. We've confirmed visual contact with devourer ships. They're not just raiders. This is a full invasion fleet. The Krillian war chief leaned forward. His species was known for being tough fighters. How large is this invasion fleet? Approximately 400 ships ranging from destroyers to world crackers, Admiral Chen replied. Several council members made worried sounds. 400 ships was a massive force. It would take the combined fleets of 6 council species to match those numbers. How many ships does Earth have available to respond? The Zenthari ambassador asked. Admiral Chen's smile was sharp as a knife. How many do we need? Elena watched the confusion spread across the council faces. They still didn't understand. Admiral, Elena said, please show them the real fleet. The main display screen changed. Instead of showing the council chamber, it now showed space. Empty, dark space around the Sol system. Then the ships began to appear. They didn't come out of hyperspace. They had been there all along, hidden behind advanced stealth technology. As their cloaking systems turned off, the true human fleet revealed itself. The council members stared in shock. There weren't dozens of ships. There weren't even hundreds, there were thousands. Massive dreadnoughts that looked like flying cities. Carriers so large they could hold entire armies, destroyers that moved like hunting sharks, battle cruisers with weapons that seemed to bend light around them. How long? The Altarian Chancellor's voice was barely a whisper. How long have you had this fleet? We started building it the day we joined the Council, Elena said simply. We hoped we'd never need it. We really hoped for that. Admiral Chen's image turned to face the Council directly. The inevitable consequence is my flagship. She's leading the advance fleet. Estimated arrival at New Geneva in 5 hours and 43 minutes. The inevitable consequence? The Pixari delegate asked in his tiny voice. All our ships have names like that, Elena explained. The unrelenting pursuit. The patient stalker. The certain death. We name them for what they do. The Zenthari ambassador was looking at his own datapad, his mandibles clicking rapidly. These ships, some of them are larger than our space stations. How did you build them without anyone noticing? You weren't looking for them, Elena said. You saw what you wanted to see. Peaceful humans who brought cookies to meetings and helped solve trade disputes. Admiral Chen added, every human colony has hidden shipyards. Every human trade ship has concealed weapon systems. Every human diplomat has military training. Elena nodded. We told you we were from a death world. We told you we were persistence hunters. But you thought that was just interesting history. The room was getting very quiet, the kind of quiet that happened when prey animals realized a predator was nearby. What are persistence hunters? Chancellor Vorth asked. Elena's smile became something that would haunt his dreams for years. We're the animals that never stop chasing. Other predators are faster or stronger. But we keep going. We follow our prey until it's too tired to run anymore. Then we kill it. She walked over to the main display, moving between the council seats. As she passed each delegate, they moved slightly away from her. Humans used to hunt animals called mammoths. Big creatures, bigger than most of your species. We would chase them for days. Weeks sometimes. We'd follow them across frozen lands until their huge hearts gave out from exhaustion. Elena stopped in front of the display showing the human fleet. Space is just a bigger hunting ground. Admiral Chen's voice cut through the silence. First contact with Devourer fleet in New Geneva system. They're trying to retreat. Follow them, Elena said without turning around. Already are. They're heading for the void sectors. The council members knew about the void sectors. Empty space so cold and dark that most species avoided it completely. It was considered a natural barrier. They think the void will stop us, Elena said, still looking at the display. They don't understand. We evolved in ice ages. We crossed frozen oceans to hunt seals. Empty space doesn't scare us. The Krillian war chief shifted in his armor. His species was proud of their military strength. Ambassador Vasquez, your response seems excessive. Perhaps negotiations could... Elena turned to look at him. The war chief stopped talking immediately. They attacked our children, Elena said quietly. There are schools on New Geneva, playgrounds, families. She walked back to her seat but didn't sit down. There are 6-year-old humans on that planet who just learned to read. There are teenagers who were planning their first dates. There are parents who were making dinner when the attack started. Her voice never got louder, but somehow it filled the entire room. The Devourers made a mistake. They triggered something in us that we've kept buried for 3 years. Something that's been sleeping since we joined your nice civilized council. Admiral Chen spoke again. Devourer fleet has split into 3 groups. They're trying to scatter. Track all 3 groups. Begin the hunt. Yes, ma'am. All fleets are away. Elena finally sat down. She looked around the council chamber at all the shocked faces. You wanted to know what humans really are? We're the species that killed everything else on our planet that tried to compete with us. We're the animals that turned wolves into dogs and made them happy about it. We're the hunters that chased our prey across continents for fun. She folded her hands on the table again. They were still perfectly steady. And for 3 years, we've been pretending to be something else. We've been playing house, playing civilization. The emergency lights stopped flashing. In the sudden normal lighting, Elena looked exactly like the same peaceful diplomat who had walked into the chamber that morning. But the Devourers just reminded us what we really are. And now they're going to learn why humans are the only species from Earth that made it to the stars. In the silence that followed, everyone in the chamber could hear their own heartbeats. Everyone except Elena, whose heart was beating with the steady rhythm of a predator that had just begun to hunt. The council chamber had become a place of whispered conversations and nervous glances. For the past 2 hours, updates had been coming in from the human fleet. Each report made the council members more uncomfortable. Elena sat quietly in her chair, reading her communication device. Sometimes she would nod slightly or make a small sound of approval. She looked like someone reading pleasant news about weather or sports scores. She was actually reading battle reports about the complete destruction of one of the galaxy's most feared species. Admiral Chen's hologram appeared again. This time, the background behind her showed the bridge of a moving starship. Crew members moved quickly between stations, their faces focused and determined. "Status report for the Council," Admiral Chen announced. "The inevitable consequence has reached New Geneva. The Devourer fleet attempted to consume the planet's atmosphere but was interrupted. The main display changed to show space around New Geneva. The planet looked hurt. Dark clouds covered parts of it where the Devourers had been feeding. But it was still there, still alive. Around the planet, the wreckage of alien ships drifted in slowly expanding clouds of metal and gas. How many Devourer ships were at New Geneva? Chancellor Vorth asked. 47, Admiral Chen replied. They're no longer a concern. You destroyed 47 ships? The Xanthari ambassador's voice was very high. In how much time? 18 minutes, Elena said, not looking up from her device. Though most of that was travel time between targets. Admiral Chen nodded. The Devourers were unprepared for our tactics. They expected a slow defensive response. Instead, they got humans. The Krillian war chief leaned forward. What makes human tactics so different? Elena finally looked up. We don't fight to win. We fight to hunt. There's a difference. She stood and walked to the display showing the battle aftermath. Most species fight for territory or resources or honor. They have rules about war, codes of conduct, ideas about fair fighting. She pointed to the wreckage around New Geneva. Humans fight like we're hunting mammoth. We chase our prey until it's exhausted, then we kill it efficiently. There are no rules in a hunt except one: catch the prey. Admiral Chen added, the Devourers tried to use their standard hit-and-run tactics. They would strike, do damage, then retreat before defenses could respond. It's worked for them for millions of years. But not against us, Elena said. Because we follow. The display changed again. This time it showed a star map with moving dots representing ships. Blue dots were human ships. Red dots were Devourers. The blue dots were following the red dots through systems Elena had never heard of. Currently, we're tracking 3 separate Devourer groups, Admiral Chen reported. Group Alpha is heading for the Maelstrom Nebula. Group Beta is trying to reach the void sectors. Group Gamma is running toward the Galactic Rim. Will you let them escape? The Pixari delegate asked hopefully. Elena and Admiral Chen both looked at him with expressions of such complete confusion that he shrank back in his tiny chair. Let them escape, Elena repeated slowly as if the words didn't make sense. They attacked our children. Admiral Chen's smile was cold as space. Delegate, I don't think you understand. This isn't a battle anymore. This is a hunt, and humans never lose a hunt. The display showed the pursuit in real time. Human ships were following the Devourers into regions of space that most species considered impossible to navigate. The Maelstrom Nebula was filled with radiation that fried most electronics. The void sectors were so empty and cold that ships could get lost forever. The nebula will stop them, Chancellor Vorth said hopefully. No one can fight in those conditions. We're not fighting, Elena corrected. We're chasing. As they watched, blue dots entered the swirling chaos of the Maelstrom Nebula, following the red dots without hesitation. How are your ships surviving in there? The Xanthari ambassador asked. We built them to hunt in places where prey runs to hide, Admiral Chen explained. Radiation, electromagnetic storms, gravitational anomalies. These are just environmental conditions. Humans evolved on a planet that was constantly trying to kill us. Elena nodded. Our ships are designed like Earth predators. They can go anywhere their prey can go, and they can go places their prey can't. The comm system crackled with a new voice. It was young and excited. This is Captain Rivera of the Persistent Hunter. We've made contact with Group Beta in the void sectors. Report, Admiral Chen ordered. The Devourers are trying to surrender, Admiral. They're broadcasting mathematical sequences that our linguistics department says mean, we submit, and please stop following us. A murmur went through the council chamber. Surrender was always accepted in galactic warfare. It was one of the most basic rules of civilized conflict. Captain Rivera, Elena said clearly, What is your response to their surrender? Ma'am, they attacked New Geneva. There were children there. Elena nodded approvingly. Proceed with the hunt, Captain. Yes, ma'am. Persistent hunter out. The council sat in stunned silence. The Xanthari ambassador was the first to speak. You're refusing their surrender? That violates every treaty of war in the galaxy. Elena turned to look at him. Her expression was perfectly calm and completely terrifying. Ambassador, we're not at war. War is between civilized species who understand rules and limits. This is a hunt, and in a hunt, the prey doesn't get to surrender. She walked back to her seat, moving with the fluid grace of something born to chase. The Devourers are learning something new today. For millions of years, they've been the top predators in this galaxy. They've consumed worlds and entire species. They've never met anything that could chase them across star systems. Admiral Chen's image nodded grimly. They chose to make humanity their prey. Now they get to learn what it feels like to be hunted by something that never stops, never gets tired, and never gives up. The display updated again. Group Alpha was still running through the Maelstrom Nebula, but human ships were gaining on them. Group Gamma had changed course 3 times, but blue dots matched every direction change. How long will you chase them? Chancellor Vorth asked quietly. Elena sat down and picked up her communication device again. Until we catch them. And then? Elena looked up at him with eyes that were perfectly human and completely alien to everything the Council thought they knew about her species. Then we do what predators do to prey that threatens their young. The comm system activated again. This time it was a different captain. Admiral Chen, this is Captain Wong of the Inevitable Conclusion. Group Alpha just tried to hide in a star's corona. Should we follow? Affirmative, Captain. All units maintain pursuit regardless of environmental conditions. Roger that, Admiral. We're going in. Elena smiled at her device as she read the incoming reports. It was the same smile she'd had when she helped negotiate peace treaties and trade agreements. But now the Council understood what that smile really meant. It was the smile of humanity's true nature finally being allowed to surface. It was the smile of a hunter that had caught the scent. And in the cold vastness of space, 3 groups of ancient predators were learning that they had made the worst mistake in their species' long and terrible history. They had threatened human children. Now, they were going to discover what happened to anything that tried to hunt the hunters. Day 3 of what the Council would later call the 18-day hunt began with reports that shook the foundations of galactic military thinking. Elena had not left the Council chamber. A small cot had been brought in for her, along with a constant supply of coffee and simple meals. She wanted to be present for every update, every decision, every moment of the hunt. The other Council members had also stayed. They told themselves it was their duty to monitor this unprecedented situation. Really, they were too terrified to leave. They needed to see how this would end. Admiral Chen's morning briefing showed the current tactical situation. The 3 Devourer groups were no longer running in straight lines. They were beginning to panic. Group Alpha attempted to hide in the gas giant atmosphere of Xerion 7, Admiral Chen reported. Our ships followed them down. The Devourers lasted 6 hours in the crushing pressure and acid storms. Our ships are designed for worse conditions. Chancellor Vorth looked sick. Your ships can survive in a gas giant's atmosphere? We tested them in Jupiter's storms first, Elena said casually. Earth's solar system was our practice range. The tactical display showed that Group Beta had tried something desperate. They had split into individual ships, each going in a different direction. Scatter tactics, the Krillian war chief observed. Classic technique for evading pursuit. It doesn't work against pack hunters, Elena replied. Humans evolved to hunt in groups. When prey scatters, we just split up and chase each piece separately. Admiral Chen confirmed this with a grim smile. Each Devourer ship now has between 2 and 4 human vessels tracking it. We've assigned call signs to each individual hunt. The communication system came alive with multiple voices reporting simultaneously. Relentless Stalker to command. Target Delta 7 has been cornered in the asteroid field at Cygnus 9. Certain death to command. Target Delta 12 is attempting to hide in the radiation shadow of a pulsar. We're moving in. Patient killer to command. Target Delta 3 just tried to ram one of our escort ships. The escort ship is fine. The target is not. Elena listened to each report with the focused attention of someone following a favorite sport. Her calm satisfaction was more unsettling than any show of anger would have been. How many individual devourers are you tracking now? The Zenthari ambassador asked. 46, Admiral Chen replied. Down from the original 400. The math was simple but horrifying. In 3 days, humans had eliminated almost 90% of an invasion fleet that should have been able to conquer half the galaxy. What about Group Gamma? Chancellor Vorth asked. Elena's smile became something that made several council members look away. Group Gamma tried something interesting yesterday. The display changed to show the galactic rim, the edge of known space where stars became few and far between. It was empty, hostile territory that most species avoided completely. They went into the deep dark, Admiral Chen explained. The space between galaxies. They think they can lose us out there. Can they? The Pixari delegate asked in his tiny voice. Elena and Admiral Chen exchanged looks that somehow contained an entire conversation. Delegate, Elena said slowly. Human ancestors once tracked prey animals across frozen continents during ice ages that lasted thousands of years. We followed herds of mammoth across land bridges that don't exist anymore. We chased our food into territories so cold and empty that other predators died just from being there. She stood up and walked to the display showing the dark space beyond the galaxy. The deep dark is just another empty place, and humans are very good at crossing empty places. The comm system crackled again. This time the voice had a different quality, harder, more focused. This is Captain Martinez of the Inexorable Truth. We are now officially in intergalactic space, pursuing the last group of devourers. Admiral Chen leaned forward. Status report, Captain. 26 devourer ships remaining. They've been running for 4 days straight. Their ships are showing signs of system failures from prolonged flight. We think they're getting desperate. Elena nodded approvingly. Exhaustion phase. Their prey drive is breaking down. What's prey drive? Chancellor Vorth asked. The psychological need to run away from predators, Elena explained. Most animals can only maintain it for so long before their minds break. Humans tested this during our persistence hunts on Earth. She returned to her seat, moving with the same fluid grace that had become familiar and terrifying to the Council over the past 3 days. We would chase animals until they became so tired they couldn't think clearly anymore. They would run in circles, make bad decisions, freeze up and panic. Then we would close in. The Krillian war chief shifted uncomfortably in his armor. This seems excessive. They're already defeated. Elena looked at him with genuinely puzzled expression. War chief, they attacked human children. Did you think we would stop because they're tired? Admiral Chen's voice cut through the chamber. All units were receiving a wideband transmission from the Devourer group, broadcasting on all frequencies. Put it through, Elena ordered. The communication that came through was unlike anything the Council had ever heard. It was a series of mathematical proofs, complex equations, and harmonic frequencies that their universal translators struggled to process. After several minutes, the translation appeared on screen. We surrender completely. We submit to human authority. We will leave this galaxy forever. We will never harm human colonies. We acknowledge human dominance. We beg for mercy. Please stop following us. Please let us live. The council chamber fell silent. Even for species that had seen centuries of warfare, there was something deeply disturbing about hearing the terror in those transmitted equations. Chancellor Vorth cleared his throat. Ambassador Vasquez, they're offering complete surrender. Surely this is acceptable? Elena read the translation again, her face showing no emotion at all. Captain Martinez, she said clearly. What is your response to their surrender? The captain's voice came back immediately without hesitation. Ma'am, they came for our children. There are kids on New Geneva who had nightmares last night because of what these things did. Proceed with the hunt, Captain. Roger that, Ambassador. All ships close to engagement range. The Zenthari ambassador stood up quickly. Ambassador Vasquez, this is unprecedented. In all galactic history, surrender has always been accepted. Elena turned to look at him. Her expression was still perfectly calm. Ambassador, you keep using words like war and surrender. Those are concepts for conflicts between civilized species. What's happening out there isn't war. She gestured toward the display showing the hunt in the deep dark. That's an extermination. The Devourers made themselves a threat to human children. Now we're removing that threat permanently. Admiral Chen added, the galaxy will be safer when they're gone. They've consumed hundreds of worlds over millions of years. This ends today. The comm system activated one final time. Captain Martinez to all vessels. Target acquired. Beginning final approach. Elena sat back in her chair and folded her hands. They were still perfectly steady. Devourers have been the nightmare at the edge of galactic civilization for longer than most species have existed, she said quietly. Today, they learn what it feels like to be someone else's nightmare. The tactical display showed blue dots surrounding the last group of red dots in the emptiness between galaxies. And in the council chamber, representatives from dozens of species watched humanity complete the most thorough hunt in galactic history. They were beginning to understand that they had never really known their human colleagues at all. 18 days after the first distress call from New Geneva, Elena Vasquez sat in the same chair in the council chamber. She looked exactly the same as she had before the crisis began. Same neat uniform, same calm expression, same polite smile. But every other being in the room looked at her differently now. The final report had come in that morning. Captain Martinez's voice had been steady and professional. All Devourer vessels neutralized. Deep Dark Pursuit complete. No survivors. Threat eliminated. Now the Council was trying to figure out what to do with what they had learned about humanity. Chancellor Vorth spoke first. His purple feathers were still ruffled with nervousness. Ambassador Vasquez, the Council needs to discuss what happened during the hunt, Elena nodded politely. Of course, Chancellor. What would you like to know? We need to understand how long humanity has had this military capability. Elena considered the question with the same thoughtfulness she brought to trade negotiations. Our current fleet has been ready for deployment since 6 months after we joined the Council. Our weapons technology was mature before we achieved faster-than-light travel. Our military doctrine for space warfare was completed during our first year as Council members. The Zenthari ambassador clicked his mandibles nervously. You could have conquered any of our species at any time? Any 3 of your species simultaneously, Elena corrected gently. We ran the calculations. A shocked silence filled the chamber. Why didn't you? The Pixari delegate asked in his tiny voice. Elena's smile became genuinely warm for the first time in weeks. Because we didn't want to. We came to the stars to explore and learn and make friends. We joined the Council because we wanted to be part of something bigger than just humanity. She stood up and walked to the main display, which currently showed peaceful star charts instead of tactical pursuits. Everything we've shown you over the past 3 years was real. Our desire for peace, our willingness to help solve problems, our respect for other species, all of that was genuine. Admiral Chen's hologram appeared without being summoned. This had become normal over the past weeks. The fleet is returning to normal patrol status, Admiral Chen reported. All ships are resuming their previous assignments. Previous assignments? Chancellor Vorth asked. Scientific survey, trade route protection, colony defense, Elena listed. The same things we've been doing for 3 years. The hunt is over. We go back to being explorers and traders and diplomats. The Krillian war chief leaned forward. But you still have all those weapons. All those ships. Of course, Elena said, looking genuinely confused by the question. We told you we were from a death world. Did you think we would come to the galaxy unarmed? Admiral Chen added, every human colony has defensive capabilities. Every human trade ship can fight if necessary. Every human civilian has basic military training. This has always been true. Elena returned to her seat. We hoped we would never need any of it. We really, truly hoped for that. But you were prepared, Chancellor Vorth observed. We're always prepared, Elena confirmed. That's how humans survive. The chamber fell quiet again. The council members were trying to process the idea that their helpful, peaceful human colleagues had been carrying enough firepower to conquer the galaxy. The Zenthari ambassador asked the question they were all thinking. What happens now? Elena looked around the room at all the worried faces. Now nothing changes. We go back to helping mediate trade disputes. We continue working on the Altarian Mechanoid Treaty. I think the cafeteria is serving that new salad I wanted to try. She paused, then added with perfect sincerity. We're still the same people we were 3 weeks ago. We're still your friends and allies. We still want to help build a peaceful galaxy. But, Chancellor Vorth said carefully, if someone threatens humanity again, Elena's expression didn't change, but somehow the temperature in the room seemed to drop. Then they'll learn the same lesson the Devourers learned. We're a patient species. We're a forgiving species. We genuinely prefer peace to conflict. Admiral Chen's smile was sharp as winter. But we're also a hunting species. And we never lose a hunt, Elena nodded. The galaxy is safer now. The Devourers had been a threat to everyone for millions of years. Now they're not. The Pixari delegate raised a tiny hand. What if other species object to how you handled this situation? Elena and Admiral Chen exchanged one of their silent conversations. They're welcome to file a formal complaint, Elena said diplomatically. Admiral, Chen's grin became something that would inspire nightmares. We'll be happy to discuss their concerns. In person. The meaning was crystal clear. Any species that wanted to argue with humanity about their methods was welcome to try. They would get the same treatment as the Devourers. Chancellor Vorth cleared his throat. Perhaps we should discuss new council protocols for situations like this. Good idea, Elena agreed. I suggest we establish a new emergency response system. When any council member faces an existential threat, they can request immediate human assistance. What would that assistance involve? The Zenthari ambassador asked nervously. Elena's smile returned to its normal diplomatic warmth. Whatever is necessary to eliminate the threat. We're very good at problem solving. Admiral Chen nodded. Human doctrine is simple. Protect our friends, explore new places, learn new things. Anyone who interferes with those goals becomes a problem that needs solving. And humans are very thorough problem solvers, Elena added cheerfully. The meeting continued for several more hours, but the important business was finished. New treaties were written. New protocols were established. New understanding was reached. The galaxy now knew what humanity really was. They were the species that had killed everything on their home planet that tried to compete with them. They were the hunters that had crossed ice ages and oceans to catch their prey. They were the predators that had tamed wolves and turned them into pets. And for 3 years, they had been pretending to be harmless diplomats, because that's what they wanted to be. But when threatened, especially when their children were threatened, they became something else entirely. They became the nightmare that even nightmares feared. As the council session ended, Elena gathered her papers and prepared to return to her quarters. She had correspondence to catch up on, reports to file, and yes, that new salad to try. Chancellor Vorth stopped her at the door. Ambassador Vasquez, may I ask you something personal? Of course, Chancellor. When you were chasing the Devourers, did you enjoy it? Elena considered the question seriously. I enjoyed protecting human children. I enjoyed eliminating a threat to galactic peace. I enjoyed working with competent colleagues toward a necessary goal. She paused, then added with complete honesty, and yes, Chancellor, I enjoyed the hunt itself. Humans always do. It's what we are. As she walked away, her footsteps echoing in the corridor, Chancellor Vorth realized that Elena's answer was the most terrifying thing he had heard in the entire 18 days. Not because humans were monsters, but because they weren't. They were just very, very good at hunting, and they were perfectly comfortable with that fact. Later that night, as reports spread throughout the galaxy about humanity's true nature, a new understanding settled over civilized space. The humans were still the helpful neighbors. They were still the patient mediators and skilled diplomats. But now everyone knew what happened to things that threatened, what humans cared about. The galaxy was a more peaceful place now. Not because there were fewer threats, but because those threats now knew what was hunting them.